What INASP taught me was that it wasn't enough just to make it free. It wasn't enough just to build the tool. That you had a responsibility in sharing that tool. We had to build a self-instructional platform that would provide people with the means and the understanding, that would provide people with the structure and the direction for running their journals.
When lecturers came back with their PhDs, they found our libraries having no material to support their research interests, and they quickly rusted. So INASP came into that space to help us access journals through cooperative agreements and subsidized access into those journals, because the greatest issue was the cost of journals.
INASP has come in to really build the research interests of a lot of people way back home. Because during the times when the economic situations were bad, people were not interested in research because they were not getting the information that they needed to carry on further research. But now everything is available. People are able to access this information.
I'll quote from Nelson Mandela: "Eliminating the distinction between the information rich and the information poor is critical to eliminating economic and other inequalities between the North and South."
Before I met INASP, like some 2 years or so ago, I didn't know anything about information literacy. Now I know about information literacy and actually build capacity of people in Ghana on information literacy. And so looking at what they have put in me, building my capacity in that regard, I see me myself as an achievement, and that is a plus for INASP.
I've been with AGEL for 6 years, and it's grown in leaps and bounds in those 6 years, but none of that would have been possible without what INASP did in the first place. And the fact that they've managed to take that fledgling project and then started again with various other JOL projects such as NEPJOL and LAMJOL, and those are all doing so well. I think it just shows that they're doing incredible things worldwide, not just within Africa. To be here today and to listen to the history of INASP and all the other projects and relationships that they've got going, it's incredible, and I think they're great.
Is this a question or a statement? Open access is good for developing countries.
Is it a truth or it's not?
I think people start to make assumptions one way or the other in terms of truths, and this is an opportunity to hear from more than one side, and also to hear both from a northern and a southern perspective.
INASP does definitely see itself as a network, and so we genuinely feel that the exciting stuff is the stuff that's going on around the world and the partners that we're working with. So we were really keen to bring together some of those partners and allow them to have a platform to talk about the issues that affect them. So aware of the fact that it doesn't mean that everything that they were going to say would be exactly what INASP would say, and that's kind of the point. We wanted to bring in some different voices and have a bit of a discussion.
Some of the truths we were mentioning are ones that we hear, where actually, when you look at the evidence, it's not really like that. It may be like that in one case, but then you cannot generalise it. And so we did really want to challenge some of those. So we were thinking, what are the core truths that we hear people misinterpreting or misunderstanding?
Yes, open access is good for developing countries. It is a truth, but it is not a cure-all. There are some complexities to deal with. We need to learn from our Latin American colleagues. We need to have an upward push to change policy and university administrators and in governments.
Any tweet I send has a potential to reach 10,000 people. And when it's retweeted and retweeted, I could hit 1 million people in a day with a single piece of information. That's what openness and networks do for us.
For progress, there are 3 key elements: the human capital, the technology, and the innovation and entrepreneurship that is required so that technology can be translated into the process of socio-economic development and have an impact.
Policymakers, they tend to be heavily influenced by a whole range of issues, their own values, experience, expertise, judgment, the influence of lobbyists, pressure groups, and pragmatism based on the amount of resources they have available.
I want to establish a truth, namely, scientific literacy helps people understand their lifestyles and empowers them for development dialogue. But first of all, I have to say, what is meant by scientific literacy?
They would rather go and talk to the lobbyists because they expect to get good information from them, or activists, other than going to universities. Now, that is a problem, that there is no good relationship between the researcher and then the policymaker.
Should we educate the Member of Parliament, or where should we dedicate our energies more? Let's educate the technocrats, the government cabinets.
It's good to train those people, the policymakers, not the parliamentarians, because they come and go, they have other interests, but train those people who are behind the politicians, who offer them their advice, and they will be more useful.
If any one of those links is broken, it doesn't work. So the idea of focusing purely on the undersea cables and ignoring everything else, the skill shortage in network administration within universities is equally, if not more important at the moment.
The interesting thing in terms of connectivity that came out of this for me was that I've not been aware of all these undersea cables, but apparently it's the last inch that is the problem. Coming from even the land cables actually to the end user, and therefore apparently mobile technology should be a focus.
I mean, who's going to sit for 50 seconds while a page is loading?
And that's something as publishers try to do as well, because you're aware of the fact that they don't have laptops, but most of them have got mobile phones, which are pretty good, and they don't mind getting some access like a PDF. And that connectivity does exist.
And they put their mobile site on the web. What does it look like? Well, here's its measurement, 8 kilobits. What does that mean? That means 2 seconds. So from 50 seconds to 2 seconds. So the thought I just wanted to leave you with, really, was put your mobile site on the web.
The access programs, Hinari, Agora, Aware, Perry, and the work done by Eiffel has actually made 80% of the top 440 journals available to researchers in African countries.
People here didn't realize that accessibility to journals is covered. A lot of countries in the world have a lot of access to a lot of resources, but the problem is actually being able to use them. Like, they don't know that they have access to them, and they don't know how to use them. I think a lot of the audience would have normally thought, oh yes, most countries don't have access to these things, and in fact that's not the case.
So, if these subscriptions are there, what is really the problem? There's the issue of awareness, there's the issue of search skills and critical appreciation of research, and the last one is the way research is done.
INASP, when it was set up, was definitely about availability, and that's what the name is about, the Network for Availability. And I think over the years that has evolved because, as we heard today in the symposium, when it comes to academic journals, in many of the places we work, they do have subscriptions to those journals. So the sort of availability isn't necessarily the issue anymore, but there's so many other factors that are. And so I think we are moving more towards supporting people to have the critical thinking skills and the search skills to be able to engage with information. And for me, I find that actually a much more exciting and interesting place to be.
I want to conclude with this sense that we don't need a goal of open access. We need a goal of an unalienable right to knowledge, an unalienable right to education, and an unalienable right to share what we know. And by whatever means, whatever partnership, and whatever form of collaboration, the one thing that I'm certain of is that it will take everyone in this room and every kind of organization and every form of knowledge that we have here to do that.
The most interesting thing that I heard today was from one of our speakers, John Wilinski. And usually the publishing commercial world and the open access publishing world are in diametrically opposed camps. And he's been very much in one of those camps, not the other. But he also said that actually, no, it's not like that anymore. You've got to, the objectives are actually shared, and the route that you get to those objectives doesn't matter.
Publishers are open to engagement and to change, and there is a broad recognition that the open access environment is one that's expanding and needs to expand.
I think it's important to bring the different stakeholders together at such a seminar, because it gives us who are working on this from a specific perspective, different perspectives, and might be able to connect to future partners, and most important, I think, to find the core issues that should be solved.
It's really good to hear what everybody has to say, and also to hear, to kind of ground your experience with other people's experience, to hear what's really kind of happening, because there's all these there isn't that many statistics, and the statistics get reused, and I think some of them are a bit fudged, or a bit, what do they really mean? And to hear actually people's real experience, I tried this, I did this, I was there, it kind of grounds some of these statistics.
The greatest benefit is for us to hear each other. Librarians tend to work in a silo. Publishers come to you when they are selling stuff. Researchers are forever chasing their publications, but when we are together here and we are able to listen to each other without the defensiveness of you are criticizing me, or you don't understand the model on which I'm working.
Even when you work in the development field, it's very easy to start only being aware of the reality in which you live, and it's a really good thing to be reminded, and to be reminded over and over and over again that things are different for many of our partners.
To come here and to meet people who are involved in other areas of research dissemination, that for me was exciting, and I've learned a lot today just from that. So it's really broadened my horizons in that point of view. Having a symposium like this where people can get together and meet and network is awesome, because you can just see different opportunities coming forth. So that's great.
My personal vision that I'd like to see on that is that actually INASP doesn't grow as an organisation much more, but our influence and our sort of programmes and the benefit we bring does double in size again, or even more. But it's through partnerships with increasingly stronger, higher capacity local partners in developing countries. And so you don't need to look to places like Oxford for experts. You can look to places in Kenya for experts. And so what I'd like to see is that maybe a sort of strengthening of some of the regional partnerships, maybe regional hubs, so that maybe if INASP gets bigger, not in Oxford, but in the south.